Have you ever done something small for someone without expecting anything in return, only to discover later that it changed your entire life? This is the story of a young waitress who shared food with a lonely old man every single day. To her, it was just an act of kindness. But one morning, when two black SUVs pulled up outside her little diner, everything she thought she knew about her life and about the man was turned upside down. If you stay with me until the end, you'll see why those SUVs didn't just come for the old man. They came for her, too. If this story from Sunny Spot touches your heart, show your love, like, share, and comment your thoughts. The sun hadn't yet fully risen when Nia Johnson, a 25-year-old waitress, tied her apron around her waist and stepped into the Sunrise Cafe. The bell above the door jingled, greeting her like it always did. Life in the small town of Oakwood wasn't glamorous, but Nia had never asked for much. She worked long shifts, barely made rent on her small apartment, and carried the weight of bills that always seemed to arrive earlier than her paycheck. Still, Nia had a heart that refused to harden. She smiled at strangers. She refilled coffee cups without being asked, and she never once ignored the quiet old man who sat in the corner booth by the window. His name was Arthur, though he never said much about himself. His gray hair was unkempt, his clothes often wrinkled, and his hand shook slightly as he lifted the coffee mug. Most people overlooked him, assuming he had no money. Maybe they were right. Every morning, Nia slid him a plate of scrambled eggs and toast, sometimes bacon when she could spare it. Arthur would look up at her, eyes watery, and whisper, "Thank you, dear." She never added it to his bill, never told anyone. It was their quiet secret. Her manager, Brenda, warned her once, "Nia, you can't just be giving away food. This place barely makes enough to stay open." But Nia shrugged it off. "Brenda, it's a plate of eggs. He looks like he hasn't got anyone left in this world." And so the ritual continued. Day after day, Nia fed Arthur. Day after day, he returned, always in the same booth, always with the same small nod of gratitude. But life wasn't kind to Nia either. Her mother had passed away years ago. Her father was never in the picture, and she dreamed of going back to school to study nursing but couldn't afford it. Some nights she cried in her tiny apartment, staring at the unopened letters demanding overdue payments. Still, when morning came, she put on her smile and served others. One rainy afternoon, as Nia slid Arthur his meal, she noticed his hands trembling worse than usual. "Are you all right, Arthur?" she asked softly. He smiled faintly. "Just old bones, dear. Don't you worry about me. You're too young to carry other people's burdens." But Nia did worry. She worried about everyone except herself. Weeks passed. Rumors spread around town that the Sunrise Cafe might close down. Business was slow, and Brenda confessed one evening while balancing the books, "If something doesn't change, Nia, we'll have to shut the doors by Christmas." Nia's heart sank. The diner wasn't just a job. It was home. It was where she had built her small family of regulars. Truckers, school teachers, tired mothers who needed a moment of peace. And it was where Arthur found his one warm meal a day. That night, Nia stayed late to clean, even though she wasn't asked to. Arthur had already left, walking slowly into the misty evening, his shoulders hunched against the wind. She whispered to herself, "I'll figure something out. I always do." But the truth was, she had no plan. It was a cold Wednesday morning when it happened. Nia was wiping down the counter when she heard the deep rumble of engines outside. Two sleek black SUVs rolled up and parked right in front of the diner. The glass door swung open, and three men in suits stepped in. Their polished shoes clicked against the floor, completely out of place in the shabby little diner. Brenda froze. Nia's heart pounded. Everyone in the diner stared. And then Arthur walked in behind them, but he looked different. His shoulders were straight, his clothes clean, his presence commanding. The men in suits flanked him respectfully, as if waiting for his command. Nia dropped the rag in her hand. "Arthur," she whispered. He smiled at her, his eyes twinkling the way they always had. "Good morning, dear." The diner was silent as Arthur stepped closer. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded envelope, and placed it gently in Nia's hands. Her fingers shook as she opened it. Inside was a check. Not for a few dollars, not for 100, but for enough to pay off her debts, keep the diner open, and send her to nursing school. Tears welled in Nia's eyes. I don't understand," Arthur placed a hand on her shoulder. You saw me when no one else did. You fed me when you had nothing yourself. I didn't tell you who I was because I needed to know if kindness still existed without strings attached. The suits behind him exchanged glances. One finally spoke. Mr. Sterling has been the head of Sterling Enterprises for 40 years. He chose to step away for a time to see the world differently. Nia gasped. Arthur wasn't just an old man. He was a billionaire. The diner erupted in murmurs. Brenda's jaw nearly hit the floor, but Nia could only stare at Arthur. But, Mr. Sterling. Through her tears, why me? She asked softly. Arthur's smile grew warm. Because the world needs more nurses like you, Nia. And because kindness deserves to be rewarded. That morning, everything changed. The diner didn't close. Nia went back to school. And Arthur, he still sat in the same booth by the window every morning, drinking his coffee. Only now, when people looked at him, they didn't just see an old man. They saw the billionaire who had chosen a waitress's kindness over the world's indifference. And Nia, she realized that sometimes the smallest plate of eggs can open the door to the life you were always meant to live. Kindness done in secret never goes unnoticed. Life has a way of returning it to you.